Hello and welcome to another episode of Earth911, Sustainability in Your Ear. And I'm Mitch Ratcliffe, your host. Hey, you probably have heard of carbon offsets and carbon credits. They're essentially the same thing, but they can serve very, very different functions. Carbon offsets are a way for somebody to retire an amount of carbon that offsets their emissions of carbon and essentially wash away the emissions that you have put out in the world. But carbon credits can be traded. And over the years, there have been some confusion about the difference between the two. And programs have promoted themselves as offsets rather than being what they actually do, which was allowing the trading of carbon. You might save some carbon and have paid to sequester it, but the credit could be sold to somebody else, like a company who wanted to emit more carbon. We have Blake Lawrence, who's the marketing manager of Cool Effect, which is a Greenbrae, California carbon offset organization. You can find them at cooleffect.org. We asked Blake to come on and talk about the difference and what carbon offset programs with Cool Effect look like. So Blake, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Doing great. Going day by day. It's a beautiful day here in Northern California, so have to be talking to you.
Well, I'm glad that it's not smoky.
Yes, us too.
So first, let's talk about what I was just speaking to. Carbon offsets. Tell us in a nutshell what Cool Effect does and how the carbon offsets are handled.
So Cool Effect is a nonprofit organization, as you said, that works to find the highest quality carbon reduction projects in the world and help them bring financing to them through the sale of carbon credits. We go out and we survey thousands of different projects to find the highest quality projects, the ones that are doing the most to helping reducing carbon pollution and help sell their carbon credits to individuals, organizations, businesses, nonprofits, schools, farms, whoever wants to offset their footprint. We will look to help them out and reduce their carbon footprint by any means necessary.
Now, you use science-based authentication to validate these programs. What kinds of science-based metrics are you using?
Just to let you know, that is an incredibly difficult, complex topic. Science-based verification it's highly contested because it's depending on a number of different circumstances, and I'm not the best to talk towards that. I know our founders and our kind of science team is working. Science-based verification is really tough to talk about.
Sure,
what we do is we will go and talk towards, we'll go and review the project documentation documents. Mm-hmm. And so what that means is when a project goes into looking to be issued carbon credits, they will have to go through this really intense 1 to 2 year long process, sometimes longer, about getting their project verified and scientifically prove that they are reducing X amount of tons per year. And then they will be issued tons based off of how many the years that they are getting verified for. And it will all be in the past. So it's nothing future. So this is tons that have already been reduced, carbon pollution that's already been reduced from their emissions. And so what we will do is we'll look at that project documentation, and we have a person on our team here, Sid Yadav, who has spent his life working both on the verification side and working with us, looking at projects and verifying that these are the highest quality projects. We look towards things like additionality, making sure that they need carbon financing to keep the lights on, keep the doors open, making sure the project's continuing.
And you also have a very aggressive retirement program rather than waiting to the end of the year and retiring. In other words, permanently sequestering that carbon. You're retiring your carbon offset credits monthly. Why is that a better way to do it?
Well, we feel it's the right way to do it. We don't want individuals worrying about if a ton has actually been reduced or not. We will work to retire the tons and get the money to the project as fast as possible, because these projects are depending on this financing to keep growing, becoming more sustainable through the carbon financing program. So retiring on a monthly basis is incredibly important to us because it's getting the money to the projects and getting these tons off the market so they can be resold through third-party resellers.
Now, you also recently introduced something called the Seller's Pledge in October. How does that work? What does it mean that you have a Seller's Pledge related to offset?
So the Seller's Pledge was something that we came up with because we were pretty tired of the lack of transparency in the market, in pricing. And it really wanted to let buyers know how much they are paying per the ton and for the fees, and being completely transparent about that. Cool Effect has a 9.87% fee, which we are very transparent about. And we break out what that 9.87% fee goes towards, such as retirement, credit card fees, and things like that. And so we're able to keep our fee structure very low so that every individual knows exactly how much they are paying per ton for each credit they are purchasing. There's no hidden fees, nothing that you'd see at kind of an airline and baggage claim, things like that. None of those exist for Cool Effect.
And that's a very good management ratio for a lot of nonprofits. Many nonprofits might take 30, 50, even 80% of the funds raised just to operate, but you guys are doing it for less than 10%. How do you report out to your customers, the people who are buying the offsets, about how you have used their money?
Well, we run quarterly check-ins with all of our projects for larger company purchases over, not sure the exact ton amount that they purchased, but we will pull in metrics from the project to share with the businesses, usually are purchasing that much, to let them know this is what your money has done. Such as with our partner with Twitter. Twitter supported our Jacunda project in Brazil. And with that money, the project was able to build new houses and a school for the community there. And we were able to get photos from the community to share with Twitter so that they could have that information to know that, look, we're really doing something here.
Mm-hmm. Just out of curiosity, how does building houses and schools lower carbon emissions in Brazil?
Well, it's part of like bringing the community together. You need the community is protecting the forest, but they also need better lives. So helping them, having something they get out of protecting the forest by getting a new home or something like that. And these aren't mansions; they're huts.
Sure,
but it's a home for them and it's a school for them, and that shows that protecting this forest is more valuable than cutting it down and using the slash and burn economy where they're cutting down the trees and selling the timber.
That's okay. So that's a really important point. So what you're doing is creating programs that not only grab CO2 in the sense of, like we're going to capture it out of the air, but you do support continued sustainable forests that are capturing that carbon. So by reducing the deforestation, you actually increase the carbon capacity of the rainforest. Now, and what you're hinting at is a world in which we are starting to transfer some value to the people who live in and can take care of that forest instead of chopping it down simply to survive.
Absolutely. Hit the nail on the head. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Great. Okay. So tell me about, you guys have a bunch of different ways to offset. You can visit the site, and I urge everybody to take a look at cooleffect.org while you're listening. And for instance, you can just, pick an amount for your annual offset, or you can offset things like travel. And tell us about how you can manage your travel emissions and offset them with Cool Effect.
Absolutely. So imagine first flying in today's world. If you get the privilege, enjoy it. I certainly miss traveling. But traveling is what we call Scope 3 emissions. It's unavoidable emissions and for businesses. And so when you travel, the flying creates pollution. It puts out carbon pollution when you fly. And so what we've done is we've figured out the calculation on a per hour basis of what your carbon footprint would be for your seat. And it's a simple calculation. And what is always shocking to people when I talk to them about it is how low it actually is and how little it costs. So to offset your carbon footprint, doing a round trip across the country ends up being around 1 ton, which I believe on our website is around $8.20 or something like that. And so that's a round trip from San Francisco to New York, and it offsets your footprint for that flight. Now, it doesn't offset the entire airplane because the airplane you're just offsetting your single seat. But that's how we do it. And for the calculation, I believe we pull in EPA numbers on basically breaks down into short haul, medium haul, and long haul flights. The most emissions are put out during takeoff and landing when you're flying. And so when you're only going a short distance, your emissions are lower, but it's a higher percent. Like you're creating more emissions doing short haul flights than long haul, because when you're doing a long haul flight, you're up in the air for most of the flight. You're not going up and down. So we've taken that calculation and broken out into an hourly basis so that when people look at it, people don't know how many miles it is from San Francisco to New York. They know it takes about 5.5 hours, 6 hours. And so they can go on our website and easily look at our calculator and understand what their carbon footprint is for that flight.
And you also have driving and hotel stays and cruise stays or vacation offset calculators too. It's interesting because I particularly like the fact in cruise ships you can say how many people were on the ship and then how many people you are trying to offset, and you get a more exact number than you do in many cases where you just tell me 2 people. But you don't know much about the context of the 2 people. If they were the only ones on the cruise, that's going to be a very, very large footprint. Now, tell me about what you're doing with American Airlines, because they have an offset program built into their relationship with you.
Yeah, so American Airlines was really exciting for us. We've wanted to be part of an airline to help offer offsets to their client base. And partnering with American really came forward and said, look, we want to find the highest quality credits. We're not looking for cheap credits to offer our base. We don't mind if our base pays a premium, but having the highest quality credits is important because we want the money to go somewhere where it's really having an impact. And that's where our relationship really aligned with American Airlines, because that's what we think too. We don't want to support projects that are non-additional. We want to support projects that really need the funding, that need money to keep growing and expanding their project. And so working with American Airlines was really wonderful. And they announced our partnership at their board meeting earlier this year.
Now, you also have a relationship with Salesforce. How are they using carbon offsets? Is it around the use of their service and their customers can purchase an offset to?
So Salesforce, hopefully eventually we get down that path. It's not there yet, but Salesforce started working with us. Our founders, they have a carbon offset project that they run called Proyecto Mirador. And at Proyecto Mirador, they utilize Salesforce as a tool to track the stoves they build.
Okay.
So
tell me about Proyecto Mirador a little more so that we have a context for that.
So Proyecto Mirador is a fuel-efficient stove project based in Honduras. And to date, we've built over 200,000 stoves in rural Honduras. And we've greatly helped reduce smoke inhalation, because the old stoves in Honduras, they would just spew smoke into the house. Imagine opening a door and just getting hit in the face with a black cloud of smoke. And that's what these women and children who have to attend to the stove all day are dealing with and breathing. Our founders went down to a medical mission in Honduras in the early 2000s, and a lot of the women and children were coming in with major respiratory problems. And you're up in the mountains in Honduras. It's beautiful. There should be no respiratory problems. And yet babies were coming in sucking on nebulizers because they couldn't breathe. And it was actually my sister who really put 2 and 2 together, where she was invited into one of the homes at night of a family that she had translated for the doctor. And she opened the door, and exactly what I said, she got hit in the face with a blast of smoke and was like, whoa, what is this? And put two and two together. From then on, our founders, my family, they decided to build a better stove. We wanted to help get the smoke out of the house. We wanted the food to cook faster. And we wanted to use less wood. So we are improving respiratory health. We are getting more time for the women and children to go out, get an education, and do more things instead of just being by the stove all day, sticking wood inside. And then with the deforestation, they're cutting down a lot less trees because the stove is so much more efficient. It's burning much hotter and using almost all of the wood. And so there's less smoke and you need less fuel to burn.
Okay, so again, it's both introducing efficient technology and reducing the demand for wood locally. Both things contribute to lower emissions. One contributes to actually continuing to keep trees alive so they capture more emissions in the future. That's great. Now, you just said your parents founded the organization. And
yep.
Obviously a family affair. What motivated the Lawrence family to make tackling CO2 emissions its life mission?
I think it all started in Honduras. It started with Proyecto Mirador. Climate change is the biggest problem our generation is facing. And we need to solve it. This isn't something that we can look away from. And so for my parents, it became the number one goal.
Were your parents climate scientists prior to this? How did they get into this?
Nope. My mom was in advertisement. My dad was in finance. They just found a passion. And my dad is incredibly passionate about this. He was the one that originally came up with the idea of a legal signed document of the seller's pledge to say, look, we do not have any other fees. We will not change those fees, and sending that to our clients to say, look, this is who we are. We're not going to sign. We're not going to do anything. We're not going to change the fee structure. It's carbon done correctly. And have our partners take that to other offset providers, and they won't be willing to sign it because they can't release their fee structure. They don't want to.
Now, what other projects are you working on? You've mentioned Proyecto Mirador, and we've talked about building schools down south in Brazil as well. What else could I support by offsetting carbon through cool effect?
So we have projects all over the world. And just a note, Proyecto Mirador is not affiliated with Cool Effect directly.
Right.
Our founders are the same, but we purchase credits from Proyecto Mirador. And so the money that goes when you purchase a ton from Proyecto Mirador goes directly to the project. And so going back to our projects, we have projects all over the world, everywhere from Vietnam, China, India. We have a DC solar project, which is really amazing. It's in an incredibly rural part of India. Our climate scientist went there, and it took him multiple days to get out there because you have to take multiple planes, car ride, boat ride out to this rural town where they are building. What they've done is they've put little solar panels on the roof, and it's a community solar project. And so it's bringing electricity to these homes that never had anything. You get lights so the kids can study longer for school. You get fans for when it's a hot day. All of these things are just revolutionary in their eyes. So that was a really cool project that we added not too long ago. We have a few projects in the States, including some forestry projects in Pennsylvania. We have a forestry project in Alaska, a community restoration program in Klawa, where they're protecting the forest there. We're home to one of the largest population of black bears in the world. And so we've got kind of projects of all different shapes and sizes. We have another project in Brazil that protects rosewood trees. And it's great when we come across a really interesting, good project because we cannot wait to get it up on our platform.
Well, and what I like about the platform is that I can actually go in and read a lot about these individual programs and support them individually.
Yeah, and this is something that's always important to us is what you're able to do, and this is something that a lot of our competitors can't do, is you can support these projects directly. Mm-hmm. You don't have to just support buy the portfolio, which goes to all of the projects. You can support each individual project. So let's say you're Brazilian and you want to offset your footprint. What matters in India may be good, but it's maybe not what you want to support.
Right.
And so you want to go and support your Brazilian restoration projects, protect the Amazon forest. That's important to you. And so you can do that. Going in and buying individual projects is an incredibly important tool, and our base really loves to do that.
Now, carbon offsets have, it has taken a while to get started, and there's been some stumbles along the way where programs were not following through in the way that they had promised. You're being very transparent about this, and it sounds like where we need to get arrive sometime soon is real scale and ease of use in terms of being able to support carbon offsets to address our consumer lives as well as reducing the consumption that we do. And how long do you think it's going to be before we might have, like when I go to the store today at the grocery store, they said, we'd like to give $1 to this. How long before I could just simply add an offset to a transaction just as a matter of standard business?
Well, we'd love to do it. We'd love to do it right now. But our biggest concern about that is if the project's the right project. Right. We don't want to be sending money to a project that such as landfill gas, where it's cheap, it's $1 per ton, but it's not additional. They're required to capture the methane, which is, right. And so it becomes a secondary source of revenue for them.
Don't pay them what they already need to be doing. Exactly.
And so you have to really be careful, because someone who's at the checkout line that says, do you want to donate $1 to this? They're not going to say, well, this is all the reason, this is what the project is all about, like what we have on the Cool Effect project page, where we go into each project and you can read up on it. No one at the checkout line is going to say, no, I don't want to read into that. They might pass because they're worried they're not supporting the best quality project.
So your father comes from a financial background, and of course, portfolio management simplifies that choice that we're talking about at the checkout stand. So is Cool Effect, does it need to have a brand that you recognize just does good work so that you support Cool Effect in order for the smart people at Cool Effect to deploy the money to the right kinds of projects?
Yeah, and so that's why we built the portfolio, because for some people, it's as simple as that. They want to donate money to an organization that they trust. And so when they come to Cool Effect, they don't necessarily know, okay, I want to donate to this project or to this project. They want to say, look, I want to support Cool Effect. You guys are doing good work. You guys are taking the time to really be careful about what projects you pick, what projects you support, and I trust you. And so our base does that. Our base is really wonderful and keeps donating to Cool Effect to support all of our projects. And then once a week, we'll sit down and we'll say, okay, what project needs a little love? Some projects will reach out to us and say, oh man, like we're really not doing well. We need some funding. We want to build this. And we'll say, okay, well, let's donate some money to this project.
Right. But you need to build up the brand recognition for Cool Effect so that people are sending you the money that can be managed in that way. So, and clearly you're developing the kinds of relationships with big companies and big brands that could support that. And what I'm really asking you is, what is your plan for raising the Cool Effect flag high enough that it becomes that trusted source that somebody could drop $1 in the bin at the store?
So for Cool Effect, we do our name and brand recognition through our partnerships with everything from large organizations like Twitter, Salesforce, American Airlines, 3M, to small organizations like mom and pop shops, to a tank farm in Oregon where they want to offer tons to they want to offset the purchase of propane for their community. And so we get that name recognition through our partnerships, and by treating our partners with the respect, by not trying to cheat them out of their money. This goes back to the seller's pledge, that they know that we're only taking 9.87%. We're not taking $1 more than that. Mm-hmm. And so when someone's been cheated, when someone feels like they've been robbed, they don't want to necessarily support them, promote them. We had a great partner out in the Outer Banks who he had a boat, and he would take his clients, he would take his community out to go see whale watching, dolphin watching, things like that. And on the boat, he'd talk about Cool Effect. He said, we've offset our carbon footprint for the boat with Cool Effect carbon credits. Mm-hmm. And it was important to him, and he shared that. And we've had a lot of people reach out to us, say, hey, we found out about you guys through this company. And that's always how we feel is the best way to raise that brand recognition, so that we become more of a household name. And we're still young. We're coming out on our 5-year anniversary here. Mm-hmm. So we still have a long way to go. But the fact that we've been able to close these really major, amazing partners has been a really good sign that companies want to do the right thing. They don't want to shortchange it. They don't want to buy the cheapest credits to just say they're helping the environment. No, they're really looking to support the best quality projects. They have the right intentions.
We've moved past greenwashing for a lot of these companies. There's still certainly greenwashers out there, but firms are really genuinely concerned and acting correctly now. And one of the things I would encourage listeners to do is to point Cool Effect out to organizations they do business with, because there is an easy way for a business to sign up and get started with them, and tell people that you want to be able to add a carbon offset to your purchase. That'll make a difference. It ultimately will begin to recognize that these kinds of small additional costs can take a big step towards lower CO2 overall. Now, Blake, where can folks find out about how to buy their Cool Effect credits today?
So there's a few ways you can do this. First, if you just go to cooleffect.org there, and you click on the donate button, this is when you donate to the portfolio. This will go towards supporting all of the different projects in our platform. And so if you have a hard time kind of picking and choosing, then we've got a simple solution for that. If you're looking to offset your travel, we've got an offset the travel feature that we talked about earlier, where you can offset your hotel, your cruise, your car, and especially airline travel. As a way to do that. Now, if you've got a business or an event, we've got event calculators to help you figure out how much to offset your event. Now, I know events in today's world are a little bit more scarce, but
we'll come back.
When we do get back to that world, then that calculator will be a valuable tool for you. And then if you just go to our project page, look through all of our 15 amazing projects on our platform, really get to know and understand the work they're doing and why they need the funding to help continue to reduce carbon pollution. Which one of those would you choose? Just give me one project that you suggest everybody look at. So a project that I really love, and it's a composting project in Mexico. Really? In Brazil. And it's called A Better Use for Pig Poo. And it takes waste from a pig farm and cleans the waste and uses it for compost. And it's a really amazing project. It's located in Santa Catalina in Brazil. And it's just a fun, interesting project at a really good price. And we find it's kind of appeals to them. You've got wonderful, cute little baby pigs. And yeah, that one is always, when we found it, when we got it on the platform, we were all really excited because it's a really interesting project. And it also supports that when you have waste, when you have food waste, to always compost your leftovers. Well, I'd love to talk about why a ton of CO2 related to pig poo is more efficient, but that's a great place to stop. And I want to thank you, Blake, for joining us today to talk about this. And please do come back and share us updates with us. I will. Mitch, thank you so much for having me. This was a pleasure. Well, thank you. That's Blake Lawrence. He is the marketing manager at Cool Effect. CoolEffect.org is the destination. I urge you to check it out. Folks, thank you very much for joining us today. I'm Mitch Ratcliffe, your host at Earth911. This is Sustainability in Your Ear. We're going to be back with another podcast soon. Take care of yourselves, take care of one another, and take care of the planet.